Hey everybody, welcome to the Tesla Life, episode 51 for May 9th, 2018. My name is Russell Frost, and I am the person lucky enough to be helming this ship this week. Luckily for you, I have friends on the journey along with me, as well as this week, a special guest. So let's introduce the panel and our guest, and we'll get this show on the road, as we like to say. My wingman, our man in the KW region, because every once in a while I get it right, Mr. Mark Coughlin.
Very good, Russell. Got you trained well. The KW region will work. Absolutely. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. And we've got quite a bit of news to discuss.
We do indeed.
Let's get moving.
Along with Mark, our man in Chicago, moodily lit, but nonetheless smiling and well-dressed as ever, Mr. Tony Schaefer.
Yeah, I can play with the lights here. Yeah, unfortunately, my lighting is a little off this week, but hi, everybody, and I'm going to step aside so we can actually get to our special guest.
There we go. And our special guest is the founder of Models3ownerclub.com. You can find him on Twitter at Model3Owners. And I have to look at my notes. Also, YouTube.com/Model3OwnersClub. I like to call him Trevor because I don't know what Mr. Trevor's last name is. So I'm just going to call him Trevor. That's poor preparation on the host part.
That would be Page. Trevor Page.
Trevor Page, thank you very much.
Good evening. And now for something completely different.
Figure one, the large.
Thanks for having me on the show. It's an honor to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here with us. And we cannot wait to actually, in fact, why not wait? Trevor is here for a number of reasons, but specifically, we wanted to bring Trevor in as a Tesla expert in Canada to discuss U.S. and Canadian, the Model 3 deliveries and why the production, having been moved to Canada, is important. So with that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Trevor.
Okay, well, what can I say? Yeah, it just seems, I mean, we've been, have our finger on the pulse about the Model 3 thing for the last, 2.5 years almost now. And yeah, the recent development, of course, of Tesla, starting deliveries in Canada. Specifically, we've been getting a lot of reports, of course, from Ontario, which was rather interesting. I think it, and don't quote me on this because I don't know the exact story behind the whole situation, but there are two things that are really coming into play here. One of them is, of course, the federal tax credit reaching almost the, not the breaking point, but they have a 200,000 car limit per manufacturer in the U.S. before the phase out starts a trigger, right? So it's not an immediate cutoff, but there's a trigger mechanism. So I think, Tesla's trying to push that off as far as they can. Elon did tweet a couple years ago that they would try and do the right thing for people to try and maximize the credit. So I think it kind of plays into that. The second part of it, too, is that here in Ontario, we have very generous EV incentives. However, we have a provincial election that's coming up on June 7th. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but I'm not into politics all that much. But
that's when we're voting. Absolutely.
Exactly. And in Ontario, we have what's called the Climate Change Action Plan, which is a pretty fairly broad-reaching climate change plan to reduce greenhouse emission gases and so on and so forth. Anyways, to make a long story short, part of the action plan is EV rebates that are quite generous, up to $14,000. Now, there are some specifics and stuff, and we're not going to get into that. But up until March 8th, the Model S and the Model X both qualified for a $14,000 rebate. Now, they've since changed the rebate as of March 9th, where they've capped the prices on any EVs in Canada at $75,000. If if the car is over $75,000, you don't get a rebate anymore. So that immediately disqualified the S and the X because they both start at over $96,000 here. So exchange rate's not very favorable still, but anyhow, having said that, Model 3 fully qualifies. It's on the list. We were watching it for some time now because it has to be homologated in the country. The car has to be added to the list. Transport Canada, Ministry of Finance has to approve it, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, it's on the list. We're good to go. If anybody's watching and they're panicking because they don't see the standard range, the car's not available yet. So the only thing that qualifies right now is a long-range car. So I have to put that out there because I get that question all the time. So having said that, now we have a political system right now where the incumbents, which are the liberals, have this plan in place. They're very much for sustainable energy and EVs, and they have a mandate to get 5% of cars sold in Ontario by 2020, to be 5% of vehicles sold. However, the Progressive Conservative Party, which is starting their election campaign, of course, are very much against anything, at least on the surface, having to do anything with green related. And Doug Ford, of course, who's the PC leader, has made it quite clear. We have some communications that has said that they want to get rid of the Climate Change Action Plan and the slush fund that goes with it, which is basically the money that's paid out from the carbon tax as well. And that's the thing that a lot of people get confused, and as well as the media. They seem to think that the EV rebates, as generous as they are paid out of the taxpayers' pockets, and that's not true. It's the carbon tax that pays for that. So, anyways, just want to make that clear. So it's on the chopping block. They want to get rid of it. So everybody's in a panic right now, trying to figure out, well, like, should I order? Because there's a large contingent of people that are waiting for all-wheel drive. And, Tesla's basically said, we're not going to make any more options on the car, including all-wheel drive, until we reach that magical 5,000 sustained production number per week on the Model 3. So, they said June, they've said July. Who knows? It's Tesla time. Anything can happen, of course. So,
as we all know, right?
We all know this. So my opinion, and when people have been asking me, I said, look, if you're counting on the rebate to afford the car, if that's what matters to you, don't leave the money on the table. Act now. Just order the car. Doug has said that publicly, and we have screenshots to prove this. They said basically, if you order a car prior to them coming into power and killing off the program, of course, it's not going to be immediate. This stuff takes time. That you're safe. So if you have a reservation, that doesn't count. It has to be a firm order. So if you have a reservation, they come into power, they'd start dismantling the program, and they give you some kind of date that is going to go in. You haven't ordered anything, you're going to be SOL. So my recommendation is that if you're counting on the rebate to help afford the car, because $14,000 is a lot of money. The Model 3 is right now, first production's, $64,000. Not a cheap car. We have a 13% tax. So $64,000 plus your tax minus the rebate. So yeah, if you're looking at that, some people said, well, I really want all-wheel drive. Well, I said, well, you want to lose $14,000 to spend an extra $6,000. So, $6,000 buys you a lot of winter tires. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's where we stand in a nutshell as far as what's going on. So it's a double play. It's delaying the potential cutoff of the federal tax rebate phase out date, if you will, because they're very close on reaching that in the U.S. And so staunching that a little bit by shifting some deliveries over to Ontario. Mark, you've got your VIN number, don't you?
I got my VIN number. Yes.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, so that was an exciting day, of course. And the reports that were coming in is that they were pretty much almost 100% in Ontario. Now, I have been getting a few indications that a few in Vancouver have gotten some, as well as Montreal, but the vast majority of them are showing up in Ontario. And I had a tip this morning, and I went out and I found 17 Model 3s on a holding lot here in Toronto.
Wow.
So they're here.
He just found them. They were just laying around.
You know what I mean?
It's like it's like the Pokemon Go of
right.
teams.
Exactly. So the cars are here. They exist. I did have a follower or someone private. I mean, listen, since the VIN numbers were coming out, I've had nothing but a flurry of activity, as you can imagine. It's been pretty busy on social media trying to keep track of this stuff. By the way, I don't track VIN numbers. It's not my thing. There are other people that do that, so don't ask me about VIN numbers. I'm not into that kind of thing.
Well, we track them here too. So
okay,
no, we don't.
We just track high VIN numbers. That's all we do here.
Yeah, there's my mug. There you go.
There you go.
Anyhow,
so that was you this morning, right?
That was me bright and early this morning. Found a bunch of Model 3s, 17 to be total. Of course, there's more rolling in all the time, of course, so that's not going to be the only ones.
Is the little guy in the back, is that security coming over to tackle you?
I was going to say, is that somebody yelling? Hey!
I won't comment on that. She was very nice. But,
Oh, good.
Yeah, made it very clear they don't want people on the property. So please, folks, if you know where it is, and I'm not going to let it out because it's not cool to go on property. I was there for literally 1 minute, and then I went. So yeah, don't be going looking at Model 3s. Just be cool about it.
Yeah. Don't go and vandalize Mark Coughlin's car.
No, stay away from the red ones, please.
Yeah,
So just getting back to my point though, real quickly before I let move on here. I did get a report that someone has a delivery date as soon as this Friday.
Wow.
Yeah. So now I would assume that this is a current owner of a Model S because, of course, they've been giving preferential treatment as always to that. The vast majority of other people I've been hearing from personally, I've got some friends around here. They've been given a tentative date of June 4th. So it looks like there could be a couple weeks to get through some of that. I don't know exactly. It could just be placeholder until they get more of their stuff kind of organized. We do know that the initial deliveries, the dribs and drabs, will happen at the Tesla showrooms, so namely Oakville and Lawrence. The rest of the majority, the one really starts ramping up in June, will be at the International Center. That's the large center where I took delivery of my Model X in December by the airport. They just have a bigger facility, and
they use that as a rental type thing.
It's they lease.
Place. It's just they're leasing space for a month or two, and
exactly.
Now, do you, Trevor? Do you think that's going to be a longer period than a month in this case?
I would suspect that that's the case. If the cars actually do roll in on a regular basis, that it would have to be an extended lease because they just don't have anywhere else, to deliver these cars. I mean, they have a couple holding lots where they put cars. But I'll give you an example. When I took delivery of my Model X, there were probably close to 200 cars in the back lot, and they were delivering, I was told, something like 60 cars a day.
Wow.
During the fourth quarter. So fourth quarter is always a big push. The other thing, too, of course, is that they want to make sure that they get as many cars out to the furthest reaches because those take the longest time for transit and stuff to be able to count into a quarter. That's, it's critical for Tesla. So it's one of the reasons they're pushing so many cars. I mean, I've had a lot of people down in Florida take delivery, for example. So they try to get them out of California. And then as the quarter gets tighter and tighter and tighter towards the end, they start wrangling in the deliveries towards, Fremont. So most of that's kind of how they operate.
One question on that transport. I've heard rumors that these cars are being shipped to Chicago first by rail and then switch trains to go to Toronto. Have you heard the same or anything different?
All I know is what happened to me, and that's exactly where my Model X ended up. When I ordered it, they said, it's sitting in Chicago. Do you want it? I said, yes. Okay, we'll have it in here in like 4 days, 5 days or something.
Right.
So they have a large holding lot in Chicago.
All right, I'll be right back.
Yeah. And we've been hearing some different things that like with the shipment of these cars, there's a large amount coming, obviously, but no one really knows what the number is. But like we could be talking thousands that are coming into Ontario or into the GTA. Because it's a really large area that I believe some people have said it's like second or third on the list for the most orders.
Second only to Los Angeles, to the Los Angeles basin. It's huge here. So there's a lot of Teslas in Toronto.
So this massive amount, and I have heard rumors, and again, this is unsubstantiated, but I've heard 2,000 in the first wave just for the GTA.
It wouldn't surprise me in the least. There's a huge pent up demand. The thing with Canada is that, unlike the U.S., we don't have a lot of stores. I mean, we have Montreal, Toronto, soon one in the Waterloo
Kitchener.
Kitchener area. And, Calgary and Vancouver, and that's it. So those are the main areas, really Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal are really the main centers where people have put deposits down because, hey, you need to service the car. Witness, of course, in the GTA area, we've had no less than about 8 or 9 superchargers go up in the last 6 months. So Tesla knows where these Model 3 reservations are, and that's where they're putting most of their eggs in that basket. Huge growth. You won't be able to spit without seeing a Model 3 here in Toronto in a few months.
Yeah.
Wait for it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we've also, there's been people that have in the U.S. that are a little bit upset on forums that all of a sudden production has stopped. Not stopped, but it's been slowed down in the U.S. Even in the home state of California, because these large amounts are being shipped off to Ontario. But I do want to get through to the people watching this that, certainly that's a good thing for U.S. citizens as well, because it's going to allow Tesla to get even higher into the amount that they can produce. And then everyone, for 2 quarters will get the rebate, the $7,500 tax credit that's available from the federal government in the U.S. So getting that production amount to a higher allows Tesla to produce more cars, allows more people in the U.S. to get that nice discount from their taxes.
It's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah. Can I split hairs and ask a question? And so I've heard people say that they're reducing production. In my opinion, it seems like they're not slowing production. They're realigning deliveries. You know what I mean? There's a difference.
It's a combination of both. Right now, all hands on deck as far as Model 3 is concerned. So they've put another shift on the Model 3. They've slowed down a little bit of production on the S and X. Along with that, look, at the end of the day, the thing that really counts against the federal tax credit phase out is deliveries. It's not how many they produce, right? Because they're making cars for all over the world. So if they can shift deliveries to another country, Canada, whatever the case may be, all that does is slows down the amount of deliveries that are in the U.S. So that's a win for Americans. Yes, it's a delay and it's upsetting, and I get that. Canada, we're always behind on anything. You name the product, We're closest trading partners, but yet we're 7 cousins. That stepfather sits in the corner. We're used to it. It's like, okay, I'll take it.
If you guys weren't so damn nice, we wouldn't do that to you. Okay? You just need to learn to be jerks.
We just need to be jerks.
Yes. But of course, the point is of course, well taken that, like you had said before, you're going to throw away $13,000 to spend $4,000 more, or whatever the number was. Anybody right now who is sitting through the second half of May and June waiting for delivery know they're going to get their car hopefully in July, or even those people further down the line now realize that they should realize they have 3 more months in which they will qualify for the full $7,500 rebate, instead of being upset and telling Tesla, oh no, you need to reach that 200,000 milestone this quarter because, damn it, I don't care about money. I want my car. No one's saying that.
There's a couple people like that out there, but not the majority.
You can't satisfy everybody, but I do believe that Tesla, even though they won't publicly admit it, they really want to do the right thing for people as much as possible. I've experienced goodwill from them on all kinds of occasions, including service. It is what it is. And that is actually mentioning service. It is a bit of a concern because with this many cars coming in, service is going to be, a bit of they need to work on the service aspect for sure.
Yeah, you get this influx of cars and the current base of Tesla S's and X's out there. There are going to be some huge bottlenecks at service. Yeah. And listen, it's still a little bit early days on the Model 3. Still getting reports of flaws with the car. You only hear about the bad stuff. You don't hear about the good stuff. But the bad stuff, we're seeing some consistent things like, some windshields getting cracked, back windows getting cracked, alignment of panels, some weird paint issues on bumpers and, little things like that. There's still some growing pains, but these things have a tendency to work themselves out. I just spoke to a couple other people today that took delivery of their cars, and they're basically flawless. So, you'll get the odd one that's bad in the bunch, but for the most part, they've certainly improved on quality compared to the one that I had access to last year, which was nice, but you could tell it was an early car. So, right,
it was an early car.
Yeah,
that's a euphemism for poorly put together.
Well, let's just say the VIN was in the 250 range.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, pretty early car.
Yeah, we're learning how to do this range.
Yeah,
it's interesting to me that everybody wants what they want, and we've gotten to be so selfish so much that we don't realize that sometimes waiting a month or two may not benefit you enormously right now, but it's going to benefit everyone else. You know what I mean? This whole why are they going to ship to Canada? It's obvious. Once you know the explanation, it doesn't why?
Makes sense.
Unless you're an impetuous 5-year-old, it's okay.
Do you think?
Yeah, like
Well,
you said,
if you think of it like this, let's just say it's 2,000 cars. I mean, right now at Tesla's production rate, that's like 1 week of cars. Like, what's 1 week? We've been waiting for 2 years. I mean, what's another week? Like, really?
And
I don't know.
because the incentive, $7,500 federal incentive here in the States, is based on the number of cars delivered, but its unraveling is based on time.
Mm-hmm.
So, they can stockpile as many cars as they possibly can in the United States, but then come July.
all they have to do is clear that last week of the quarter, and then it's like time to unleash. Let's let everything go. Let's run at top capacity. Anything we've got in storage is being shipped out, and everybody gets the benefit.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, we're going to see next quarter deliveries are going to be through the roof.
I mean, I hate to talk like a communist or a socialist or something like that. But I mean, let's give our friends in Canada a bone. You know what I mean? Like, they've been like getting the cold leftovers for a long time. It's okay. We can wait a few weeks for our Model 3s here, and they can have some. Ooh. And can I just, since I have 2 Canadians on the panel, seriously, Doug Ford, seriously, Doug Ford.
I was at a meeting last night, and the host of the meeting called him Doug Trump.
What's different? I mean, like,
well, you can say seriously, Russell, but who did you guys vote in as president?
Look at.
I know. Okay. I know.
You have an example just south of you that you could avoid. Instead,
he has not been voted in yet. He's just a candidate at this point. So how
is he not just a national laughingstock?
No.
Do you remember his brother?
This is
yes,
Doug,
I remember his brother.
Not his brother.
Yeah.
Right. This is Doug is the older brother, the responsible for it, right?
Yeah. Right.
The bar is pretty low.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's amazing though.
None of the candidates are really any better than each other. Like the current premier is very much disliked because of all kinds of boondoggles and so on and so forth. And then you've got this crazy guy who's coming in who's just like a denier about everything.
Yeah.
So what are your choices? You pick the lesser of two evils?
Yes, you do. Yes, learn from us. You pick the lesser of two evils.
No, pick the reality show bankrupt businessman. What's the worst that could happen? Let's see where this goes.
Oh man. Fun stuff. Well, we are falling off the tracks here.
I'm sorry.
Let's get out of the politics because there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
And move on.
Except for vote.
That's true.
Vote. Yes.
Yeah. If you don't vote, you can't complain. That's
exactly
just the way it is.
Yep.
Yeah. So next we wanted to move into one of the stories of the week.
We do.
That's right.
Oh my God. Well, let's do it. I'm sorry.
There was a report from a collision repair magazine.com that Tesla has been eyeing opening up some collision shops. Now, this is kind of a surprise because previously they were there's certainly some issues time-wise of getting vehicles fixed, and Tesla had gone into trying to hire more and more different repair shops to be certified so they could work on Tesla cars. And this report's kind of come out of left field that this auto body repair magazine has indicated that there is some talk about Tesla opening a collision shop as early as this year. They're not saying where, they're not saying how many, but it was just kind of interesting that had come out as a story.
That information actually was in a prior Tesla financial call.
Oh,
they did say that they would get into that business if they felt that the current incumbents that are doing their work were not up to the task. So it's not exactly new. It's just the first time we've actually seen potentially some action on it. That was during, I'm going to say it was last year, August. Don't quote me on that.
Right. So that's Tesla up until now has been using a lot of third-party authorized collision repair places.
Mm.
The big complaint against those places, though, hasn't necessarily been the quality of the work. It's been the enormous wait for parts.
Yes.
Which isn't really the fault of the third-party businesses.
No.
Which is kind of rude of Tesla to come in and go, well, you guys suck, so we're going to open our own shops.
It kind of is, and one of the things that I found incredibly interesting in the article is, as much time as we spend praising Tesla on their nimbleness and their ability to adapt and do new things and retool on the fly, one of the things that's affecting these third-party shops is the fact, like the mention in here, that the Model S has undergone many changes over the years, structurally, internally. And, when Tesla makes a structural change to a car, they just start making the car with completely new parts. And then you crash one of the original Model S's, and those parts don't exist anymore because Toyota's already on 13 generations later.
Not Toyota.
You mean Tesla?
Oh, did I say Toyota?
That's a Freudian slip.
I have no idea how.
Yeah.
Wait, is this the Toyota life?
No, that's in another 3 hours.
But in order to compare that, now that I'm in the Toyota hole, to compare that to other manufacturers like Toyota that we've ribbed on, that say that they have 6 years of just one model and one style, it would probably be a lot easier to get parts for those cars because nothing does change for 6 years.
Part of the problem, though, too, is Tesla really doesn't have, at least in North America, they don't really have any parts distribution centers other than the factory in Fremont.
Right.
They've got, you order parts, got to come out of California. You get the odd one, you might have a windshield sitting at the service center or some door handles because they're pretty common breaking. But other than that, everything's got to come out of California. So
yeah, it's a central spot.
And I don't know how Europe operates. I know they have the Tilburg assembly plant in the Netherlands, but they do final assembly on the cars. But I don't know if they have parts just lying around for stuff. So I don't know what the situation is in Europe, unfortunately.
This is one of those things where Tesla's growing faster than they're really ready for in some ways.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
As excited and enthusiastic as potential Tesla owners are, and as much money as they're willing to put up, Tesla's having a hard time kind of keeping up. You look at the supercharger network and it's an amazing achievement, how far ahead of everybody else they are. But then you look at like parts distribution and it's like, Ford's got you beat. Come on, Ford.
Well, in all fairness, you have to look at the car industry as a whole. Tesla's 15 years old,
right?
The other guys have been around for decades, 100 years in the case of Ford,
sure.
Over 100 years. So, the same argument can be said about, Tesla, trying to be profitable and so on and so forth. They're trying to achieve, what the other guys have been doing over 100 years in 15 years. So there's some fairness involved there too. But I do agree in the sense that they really need to get some of the underlying aspects, specifically service. And the other one that's a common complaint with Tesla is communications. Those two areas really need some work if they're going to get into this a mass market. Now, I say mass market, not an affordability aspect. I'm talking about mass market volume.
Right.
You can't have thousands and thousands and thousands of Model 3s running around and somebody gets in a collision and then have to wait for 6 months worth of parts or whatever the case may be. That's just not acceptable. People won't ask that. And I have started to see what I've been predicting for some time now, a different attitude towards Tesla from the general populace who are not early adopters. I had one case with somebody, I forget where it was, on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and they were saying, Tesla's not communicating. I don't know what's going on. It's all over the map, and I had to kind of chime in. I said, you better be prepared for this. I understand that you're very excited about the Model 3. You're not a current owner, but this is not Toyota. This is not Ford. This is a different kind of company, and you're going to have to take some lumps along the way. If you're not prepared to take some lumps, this is not the car for you. I'm sorry. As exciting as it is, you can't treat it. You can't treat Tesla and their product like other manufacturers. Yes, it's a car. It has 4 wheels and a steering wheel. But how they do the updates and how they communicate and how they do their service is completely antecedent to the rest of the industry. So there's going to be some growing pains, I'm telling you right now, from the general population who are thinking, oh, it's just another car. It's exciting. I finally can afford a Tesla now. But they're not prepared for the other things that come along for the ride. So I fear that there's going to be some upset customers down the road unless some action's taken, I think, on Tesla's part to really start boosting up. Now, I have seen a little bit of activity. I don't want to get into details, but there are some stuff that's happening behind the scenes to try and help that. But it's still early days, and we don't know what direction they're going to take at this point. So I'll leave it at that.
No, I mean, I think that's an excellent point, Trevor, in that keep in mind, while the Model 3 is affordable, it's in Tesla relative to Tesla terms, right? Relative to an $80,000 to $110,000, $120,000 vehicle. We're talking about a car that everyone who has it right now has paid about $60K. So this is relative to people who are used to buying from Lexus or Infiniti or Mercedes-Benz or BMW or Audi, who are used to being very well taken care of. And
well, I kind of disagree a little bit on that. The vast majority of people that I've spoken to personally, and I've experienced delivery, so these people, I have one person that I know personally who came, he came from a Honda Fit, and another guy came from a, Toyota or Corolla or whatever. So,
wow.
So yes, you would think because of the competition where the car is really targeted, BMW 3 Series, C-Class and all those kind of cars, that you would think that is the actual clientele. But I will tell you right now, I know a lot of people that are actually stretching their budgets in order to get into this vehicle because it represents whatever it means to them. Mm-hmm. But prior cars are not exactly, similar markets. So,
but I will also say, Trevor, that I've examined, watching the social media feeds and such, and I have seen a couple of comments of people saying that they don't think they've been treated as they have been in some of those other areas. I agree. There's a lot of people that are stretching budgets coming from different cars, but there is that thing too that, those people that are after, have been involved with Audi and BMW and Mercedes, there is a different level of service or a type of service that happens at those dealerships compared to the Tesla store. And it's going to, if those people are used to that type of service, it's going to be, like you said, a little bit of a bump here and there because they're getting something different.
Oh yeah, no, there's you will never have a disagreement on my part as far as the service aspect. Yes, there are people, and I've had BMWs, Mercedes before, and you do expect a certain level of service. I went in with my eyes wide open, going with Tesla to expect problems. So as long as you expect problems, your experience may be a little bit more enjoyable, or I don't know what the right word is, but I went in with that mentality mainly because I've been following them so long. I know how they operate.
Yeah.
So if you go in with that, now my previous car, which was a Lincoln MKC that I leased for 3 years, I didn't expect to have those kind of problems with a car that was, for a company that's been in business for 108, 110 years. So that was a disappointing experience. Now the dealer was reasonable, but I didn't expect the kind of quality problems that I had with that car. So, take your lumps whichever way.
Yeah, it's not like any manufacturer is immune to this stuff.
No, exactly. But my point is that if you're going to be buying a Tesla, you got to have an open mind, and you got to be open to accept some lumps as they go. It shouldn't be that way, but it is, and that's just the reality. It's just the way it is.
I think that's really good advice. I mean, you're gonna have to be a little tough here. You are the cutting edge. You are the early adopter. No matter how long Tesla's been around, the Model 3 is a brand new vehicle, and clearly Tesla has been wrestling with this hard. So if you think you're going to get that, well, this is just like when I bought my BMW 7 Series. No, it isn't. It's nothing like that at all.
No, don't get me wrong. They do things quite nicely in some ways, but
sure.
I was just talking to my friend who just traded in or sold his Model S and just bought a Model X, and he was lamenting to me that the delivery experience and his experience of buying that car was considerably not as enjoyable as his first time around. So I don't know if that was just a particular time or where the case may be, but it really shouldn't be like that. It should be, more even plain. But like I said, I'll just reiterate, if you're buying a Tesla, you got to have a bit of a thick skin. I know what a thick skin is. I'm on YouTube. So.
Oh God, YouTube comments.
I'll find a more wretched hive of villainy than YouTube comments.
Some sort of Shakespearean thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Star Wars quote.
Oh, is it? Oh, well, sorry.
Yeah. Hey, Trevor, got a question for you from Josh here. What are your thoughts on the VINs being delivered to Canada the 19-inch wheels. It seems that only the 18-inch wheels are going out.
And that's I experienced that firsthand because all the cars that I saw today were the 18 Aero wheels. I don't know what's going on with that. Like I said, I don't really track the VIN situation, but I do find it a little odd. I don't know if it's a part shortage or some kind of production run, or maybe they just, hey, we only have 18s this time around. I don't know what the answer is. I wish I knew.
Is it because Canadians don't use inches? I mean, I could throw the whole thing out of whack.
Well, actually, the construction industry uses inches. Everything else is metric. So you have that.
I had no idea.
Well, Tony, you've got the next story about Elon with a trick up his sleeve.
Yeah. So this was in Jalopnik, and they were reporting from Elon. Elon is saying that the Model Y, which we haven't even seen anything, an actual mock-up, an actual anything. And Elon is saying that the Model Y is in 2020. So production to begin in 2020.
No, that's Elon time.
Yeah, that's Elon time. And, they say he doesn't know, where it's going to be built. And so the article has some quotes from people saying it usually takes 30 to 36 months from breaking ground at a new factory to actual vehicles rolling off the production line. So they're saying, no, it's going to be at least 3 years. And
they have a lot of land in Sparks, Nevada. It's called the gigafactory.
They do, but I have another thought. And my other thought is this whole thing, everything in here where they're talking about the amount of time that it takes includes the construction of a factory.
Well, if they were going to build a factory, they would have broken ground by now in order to meet that deadline. And like I said, I'll just reiterate, they have lots of land in Nevada.
They do, but I'm thinking that maybe Elon has a line either here, either domestic or international, on an established factory that could be more rapidly retooled and spun up, and you would save a year and a half.
So buy an existing factory is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I think. That's just my guess. That for him to say 2020, which even he knows that's a stretch.
According to you.
Well, right. So there's got to be something.
He called you after the earnings call, right, Tony?
Yeah. He's in my living room right now.
I'll just interject here in case you haven't noticed. There has been some activity at the Gigafactory. If you know how the Gigafactory is currently constructed, it's basically an L shape right now, and the area that's within the L is the current parking lot. Well, they've been moving dirt down there. They've been moving the parking lot to the north end of town. So I do believe that they're preparing for an expansion of the Gigafactory. I mean, they did say that they want to build this thing out to about 2020 anyways. So there is definitely some activity happening down there. So again, I don't have inside information. I don't know what's going on. It's just my personal feeling based on their timeline. China's not a thing yet. That I think the Gigafactories, I mean, look, they're already building battery packs, the drivetrains, mostly electronics. It's all at the Gigafactory. So if you just expand it and put in some production line, And
one more thing to lend credence to that is that during the earnings call, Elon did mention that the future gigafactories would be car manufacturing and battery manufacturing all under one roof.
Now, that's not the first time they've said that. They've actually said that when they did the gigafactory opening originally. They said future factories would be both combined. So that's not. So
that just kind of tells the story that they could be doing it in Nevada as well.
That part too. But when they do announce the China factory, it will be the next generation. It would be car factory and so on and so forth. But unless they get assistance from Chinese manufacturing, which are very gung ho to build things. I don't know if you've ever been to China, but my parents went a couple of years ago, and they just could not believe the amount of construction that is going on. They get stuff done in China. They don't mess around. There's very little bureaucratic red tape. So unless they get some kind of assistance from China to build this factory, that it may take some time. So we don't know what the plans are, but I just try to keep an open mind as far as that's concerned. And just from observing Tesla for a long time, it's just kind of like you kind of read between the lines is what they're doing, and that's usually what happens. So
I do have to say, I don't know that the Gigafactory 1's a great location to build a car. It logistically, it's tough to get stuff in there. It's one thing to make batteries there and assemble those battery packs, but there's no shipping. Obviously, it's landlocked. There's rail. It's out in the end of Nevada that is, pretty sparsely populated. I mean, Sparks is a half an hour from Reno, which is a half an hour from civilization, at least. It's a less than ideal. Let's just say it's nowhere near as set up to make cars as obviously the NUMMI plant was, right? Because it's right there on the bay. It's used to that kind of thing. Gigafactory 1 location just doesn't lend itself well to that. That may very well be what they're doing. I don't mean to argue against that. I have no information.
I'll just throw something out there. I've been following them a long time. Sorry, Tony. I'll just throw this in here real quick.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I was going to say that.
Before Tesla purchased the NUMMI factory at a fire sale price, they were looking at building something in New Mexico. So
they like far away places.
We can question Elon's judgment or not.
Just saying.
I understand. No. I mean, I get that. Like, they're looking for a
or
number
Arizona, I forget, but it was one of those landlocked
Right.
states, as we call them.
Yeah. No, and again, there's nothing necessarily wrong with a landlocked state. The Sparks is a little weird. You know what I mean? Because there's like nothing.
That's a fair argument.
Right. Yeah, Sparks and Reno, and other than that,
land was dirt cheap.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And if you're going to bring in raw materials and make something like a battery, that's not a bad location for that. You can do that, and you could probably do that really dirt cheap. And obviously, Nevada was aggressively courting.
Oh, yes.
Tesla, like we saw them, kind of lay down on their back and show their belly to Faraday Future. And they got spanked for that.
And they rolled on their back and showed their belly.
Yeah.
I mean, they turtled.
Whatever the Canadian word is for it.
Yeah. So didn't Tesla on a call, didn't Elon say that a Chinese gigafactory would be producing a Model Y?
Not that I heard of.
For America? No, I don't think so.
No, I mean, they have to build a China factory in Europe and China, and largely to get around import taxes and duties because they're quite elevated. I mean, that's why they have the Tilburg facility. I saw a YouTube video where they do it in India with the Audi. They build practically finished cars, and they just do a little bit of final assembly, and that satisfies the the import duties that they have in those countries. So in Europe, it's no different. In China, because of the large import duties, what is it, 25%?
It's something crazy.
Yeah.
Same with India.
Exactly.
They
have to do it that way. Otherwise, the cars are just unaffordable.
Yeah, crazy. We reported on that, Tony, about Prius, that Toyota was importing Prius, and a Prius there was like the equivalent of $60,000 or something. Yeah. So there was no sales in India because nobody wanted it, and they couldn't get past the import duty.
Yeah. So this is on. It was Teslarati. It says Musk announced this 7 days ago. Musk's announcement that its next gigafactory expectations were high at that factory. The facility, Tesla's China factory, would be tasked with the manufacture of the company's two mass market electric cars, the Y and the 3.
Well, it stands to reason they would build it. Yeah.
But domestic.
Domestic sales.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. But it doesn't make any more sense to build a car in China to bring it to America than building a car in America and take it to China. Logistics just don't work.
If I could read faster, I would have gotten to the part that said for the local Chinese market.
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
Well, let's go to Mark for the next story. Speaking of vehicle production.
During the earnings call, also, Elon talked a little bit about the Tesla Semi. And he, after some consultation on the phone call, was told that the Semi orders are about 2,000 at this point that he let go. And of course, we on the outside did not know it was that high. We didn't know what we knew the number of companies that actually said they purchased them or have reserved them, and we knew the number was a few hundred. But the 2,000 was a little bit of a surprise. And the other thing that he let loose was that after the talk about Daimler not saying that they're going to have trouble getting to the range estimates that they have indicated. Elon, of course, as in classic fashion, doubled down on his bet. Said, you know what, the range is going to be higher than 500. We're going to be closer to 600 miles as opposed to 500. So not only did he step on the rumor, but he raised the bet again and said, we're going, you know, that was the prototype. When we get to production, it's going to be closer to 600 than 500. So, wow. Like, it's just incredible. Like, the guy's a showman in everything he does. Everything.
I'll just say something. You know, it's pretty obvious that Elon doesn't subscribe to the Steve Jobs one more thing edict. He just can't keep anything to himself and impress people. He's always like, really? Can't you keep something secret? Like, why do you have to do that?
No, what that means is the one more thing is going to be huge.
I don't know. I've been to the Model 3 reveal or delivery event, whatever, and there's nothing really on there that really surprised us other than the long range being 317 or 315 miles. Kind of, you know, people are pretty good at figuring stuff out on the internet. We kind of knew what the range was, but there was nothing that says, oh, one more thing. You know, that was, you know, Steve was pretty famous for doing that.
Right.
I just wish we saw a little bit of, I mean, let's face it. Elon is the new Steve Jobs in more ways than one. You know, he's not as much of a jerk than Steve was, but you know, it's like, it'd be nice to just see that again, you know, one more thing. That, you know, you miss those days. Just
it is. So I think this news report is interesting in light of the other news report this week that isn't Tesla related, but it is semi-truck related, which is Nikola, the competing truck company, announced 800 orders from Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah.
A Tesla. If I'm not mistaken, they also pre-ordered some Tesla trucks, which again,
40.
of course, right. Of course, you're going to diversify your fleet and all of that. But interesting already that we're seeing competition in pre-orders in a very expensive vehicle.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
all I got.
The next story we have is from Tesla Ari, and we'll certainly post these links on the show notes. But they posted a thing about how to decode your Model 3 VIN. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but there's many people that have interest in figuring out what their VIN means and what the different characters signify. So if you want, you can decode your VIN with their help and their examples on their website.
There you go.
And next, it's Tony with the Powerwall.
Oh, no.
I wish I had a Powerwall, but I don't. But so I kind of thought this was pretty funny when I saw this in Electrek. Our friend Fred Lambert did an article here about when Tesla acquired Solar City, they took over a long-standing lawsuit with the Salt River Project in Arizona. It's an electrical utility in Arizona. And basically, SRP had imposed unfair fees on potential solar power purchasers. And so, of course, you know, here you are in Arizona, which is sunny, something like 370 days a year. Wait for it. Wait for laugh.
No, that was good.
Yeah, got it. It is Arizona, after all. And you have a utility company that I'm assuming is burning oil and coal, and they're doing everything they can to squash solar. I mean, go figure, right? Well, they settled earlier this year. And so what they're doing is the first 4,500 residential electric customers who apply will have a rebate coming to them, or it's a financial plan. And what it is, it's $150 per DC kilowatt hour for home battery pack. And it goes up to and caps at $1,800 a system. So the Powerwall 2 has 13.5 kilowatt hour capacity. So that's something like $2,400, which means it caps at $1,800. So if you buy a Tesla Powerwall 2 in Arizona, you could get $1,800. You know, if you're the first 4,500, you get $1,800 off.
And you have to be connected to that utility, correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You have to be an SRP customer. Keep in mind. So a Powerwall is $59.90. You're knocking 1,800 off that with the SRP rebate, and potentially you qualify for the federal tax incentive of 30%. You're talking about a $6,000 battery. You can walk away with it net like maybe $2,600. That's a heck of a deal.
I'll take 5.
I know. And you get a relatively inexpensive installation. And yeah, it's a really good deal. Now, that's the first part that I think is funny, is the fact that they had to settle, and now hopefully we'll see more solar people with home battery storage. The other thing that I thought was pretty funny in a snub back at Tesla is that some of the promotional materials put out by SRP, the Salt River Project Utility, has a picture of a Tesla in the garage, but it's the LG battery that's hanging on the wall.
Yeah, they were able to advertise it any way they wanted, right?
Yeah,
so they left the Powerwall purposely out of the picture.
Exactly.
Powerwall's prettier.
It is, actually. Yeah, I mean, but whatever. I mean, home storage is home storage, and that's good. But
get out and get that rebate if you're eligible, for sure. Don't delay.
So what that means is, if you're in Arizona, come July, you could get $7,500 off your car. You could get $1,800 off your home storage. Living the life, baby.
That's nice.
And you get like 5 extra days.
I could have used the Powerwall last week.
Oh, here we go.
And you get 5 extra days of sun a year.
Here's a picture of a Powerwall out in the wild, taken by yours truly. In of all things, Julian, California. Does anyone know where Julian, California is?
That's just outside of KW, right?
Yeah, it's up in the mountains above San Diego. I'm driving down the highway and I see this.
Nice.
Oh, just sitting outside on a pedestal.
That's not one, that's 2 Powerwalls.
Oh, it's 2.
That is a 2-pack. Yeah, and it's let's see. There's the 2-pack, and you can see the solar back over here. What you can't see is that this is the Nickel Beer Company in Julian, California.
Nice.
A nice little Tesla solar array up in the mountains of San Diego. So yeah, I just thought.
Very cool.
Sorry, that was my. I don't often get to post my pictures, so there it is.
Well, our next story this week is about the removal of barnacles from the Tesla ship. So again, during the earnings call, Elon spoke to how he has experienced that they have contractors that are sub to contractors who are sub to other contractors. And there's a really small amount of people that are actually doing the work. The rest are basically profiting from outsourcing work and managing paper. So Elon has indicated that over the next few weeks, his task is going to be to focus in on who these contractors are, what their connection to the people that are doing the work, and to remove them along with the extra cost that Tesla is paying for someone to manage paper. And I guess this has started to happen. There's been a few different articles speaking about it and how that different Tesla, I guess they would be sourcing employees or people in procurement are having to answer for different vendors that they have hired. And they're starting to push everyone through this vice, trying to figure out why this one's connected to this one and why the work is not being done by this one. So it's interesting that, in our world where, let's face it, a lot of it is brokered out to different people and somebody is performing paperwork just to keep the larger pieces in motion. This is happening at Tesla as well. And he's referring it to removing the barnacles.
Sounds like the aerospace industry to me.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've seen this in real life, in how it works, so that you hire someone and then they sub out and that person subs out. And yeah, I've been caught up in that. I contracted someone who I knew had a farm of contractors. So I knew that they were a pass through to other contractors. But what neither I knew nor the other person knew was that person was subcontracting development work to someone overseas. So every time I sent an email to the contractor and said, okay, make these changes, mock this up, can you get that to me by the end of the day? They would always hem and haw, or they would go incommunicado, or they would come back the next day and say, here it is with all your changes. And after a while, I started like, why is this taking so long? You know, I gave it to you at 8 o'clock in the morning. Why can't you have these changes done? And then finally we found out they were actually farming out. So it was 3 levels of people to actually get the work done. I completely understand how frustrating that is.
Yep, and there's cost added to it. So if they can cut out the middlemen, they can lower their costs, and that's exactly what they're trying to do.
Yeah, there's some very severe belt tightening happening at Tesla right now.
Yes.
More ways than one. They want to be profitable, and then they got to get costs under control. So
that's right.
So for people who might not be completely up on this, who wants to explain the time and performance contracting? Is that it? Did I?
Crickets.
Yeah.
Explain that.
So what it is many times when you're hiring out a contractor, you say, okay, here's your contract. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to achieve this goal, and we're going to pay you $50,000 or 6 months, whichever comes first. And when the contract is over, the contract is over. And then some contracts are written in such a way that they say, you're going to work on this project until it's finished. So as you can imagine, the second contractor has a lot of incentive to always dance around the results, but never finish the project, because once they finish the project, the contract is over. So that was one of the things Elon was trying to get rid of, those open-ended contracts that, and I forgot, he had somewhere in here had said that those people are incentivized to work slower than a drunken sloth.
Yeah.
Which is true, which is exactly how they work.
Well, let's we're running out of time, so let's do one more story. We're going to go to Mark for that, and then we're going to shuffle off.
Yeah, one last thing that we
because I love this story.
It's an interesting name. Elon during
No, it isn't.
again.
No, it isn't. Don't go there. We haven't been explicit this whole show. Don't go there.
No, we're not going there.
Okay.
But during the earnings call again, Elon had mentioned a problem that they were experiencing. And this problem was with one of the robots, as he was indicating, kind of over automation. They were having a machine trying to move a piece of sound deadening material to put on the battery pack to make it quieter in the cabin of the car, of the Model 3. And what he described was that the bot that was picking up this piece of fluff was having issues, either picking up incorrectly or dropping it, not putting it in the right spot, whatever. But he started to call the bot Flufferbot during the quarter call. And what I thought was very amusing, the story was kind of funny that as he was explaining it, but what I really thought was hilarious was that after the earnings call, someone had the foresight to log on to Twitter and to set up a new account called Flufferbot. and they posted this immediately after the quarter earnings call, indicating he couldn't believe that Elon let me go. I thought I was doing a good job.
That was hilarious.
That's
so there's someone inventive out there that grabbed that and ran with it, and kudos to them. It was a good laugh, and certainly the timing was perfect.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
What I don't understand, Russell, is where you were going with this.
Well,
there are other things that fluff happen.
Well, no. We're going to say. I said we're going to.
Somebody just fell off the turnip truck.
No, listen.
Oh no, I'm waiting for him to shovel.
Do you really want me to go into it? Because I think it's a serious indictment of Tesla's manufacturing. They're using this fiberglass fluff to sound insulate the battery pack from the floor of the vehicle. And so, of course, Elon, being the big fan of the alien juggernaut that he is, tried to get a robot to do this. Part of that statement was an admission from Elon that, you know what, humans can do some stuff better than bots. And, one person could do this job better than bot all day long and get it right every time. The bot, they couldn't train the bot to do it. As it turns out, Elon's observation on Elon's observation is that, what's funny, we tested the car with and without the fluff. There's no difference.
Yeah.
That is an indictment of really poor manufacturing practices. Okay. Number one, they should have figured out whether they needed it or not before they bought a robot and programmed it and all of that.
Or Russell, it could be that they've included the fluff packs on the S's and X's, and it was just standard practice.
Again, though, you don't test these things. This is the problem with shipping beta products.
It's okay. You've got some of it right. I would say yes, but
Okay.
there's also a question of you're doing it already. It's a performed practice. They weren't going to look at it again, and that's another part of it.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Is this the Fluffer?
No.
No, that's not the Fluffer.
That is not the Flufferbot.
This is a somewhat family show, isn't it?
No, not at all, actually.
no.
I'm
Well,
sorry,
in that
Trevor.
case, hold on here.
Because the actual pictures I found for Fluffer not bought were
You don't want to know.
You know, don't
No,
do
we
that.
don't want to see the other pictures either. No.
And that's our show for this week.
Yeah,
Wait.
if you in the chat room know a good title for our show, please submit it now, and we'll take a look over it and pick a winner to name the show of. Also, through the week, if you want to follow us and see the up-to-date news that is happening, please connect to our Twitter account at The Tesla Life. See us on Twitter at The Tesla Life. Also see us on, of course, Facebook at the Tesla Life #1. And please, if you're watching, click that subscribe button in the YouTube box and give us an extra subscriber. We would really
Give 'em some
appreciate
love,
it.
folks. Give 'em
It
some love.
costs you nothing, and it means a whole heck of a lot to us, and we would really appreciate that.
Along that line, huge thanks to Eduardo Rodriguez, DK Mayville, Robin Nicholson, Jamie Dufour, Rafael Santoni, all new subscribers on the YouTube channel. Thanks very much for
welcome.
that.
Yay.
Welcome.
I know
Appreciate
Raphael. I met him in Florida. Great guy.
Oh, right on. Right on. Well, thank you. Thank you. Let's go. So this is the part of the show, Trevor, where we do shout outs. So this is where you shamelessly plug every endeavor of yours.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. Thank you. Well, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm very, very active. The handle's at Model 3 Owners. And of course, if you're a Model 3 reservation holder or an owner or want to be, check out the forum. It's at model3ownersclub.com. We also have a Facebook thing, but I don't do quite as much on there. But the forum and Twitter, that's where you'll find me.
Excellent.
And don't you have a thing to tell Model 3 owners coming up in June, I believe it is?
Yes, thank you for the reminder, Mark. Yes. I am organizing the first Model 3 delivery people on June 16th, 2018 at 8 p.m. at the Vaughan Mills Supercharger. That's the central one here in Toronto. It's probably the best location. So again, at 8 p.m., if your Model 3 has been delivered and you want it and you want to meet other people, come out and say hi. We'll do a little video or something, interviews and stuff. So yeah, come on out. So once again, Saturday, June 16th at 8 p.m. at the Vaughan Mills Supercharger, and hope to see you there.
Awesome.
Very
Awesome. Tony, you want to bring this home?
Yeah, as always, a shout out to everyone in the chat, and I will always forget people. But I know Bruno is in there, and Derek and Eric, and Hockey Day, JT, Matt. I know there are Lee is in there, Josh.
I always feel like this is romper room at the end.
I know it's like I hold up the little
I
thing.
see.
Is that a pop culture reference anyone gets?
Hold
I
up
hope-
the magic mirror.
Yes, I totally got that. But it's like I want to give a shout out to everybody. I just want to just say again every week it's thanks so much for joining us. Hold hands.
No progressive conservatives here.
Yeah. I did just recently get an email from our attorney. I have to make a statement that in no way does this show encourage the use of robotics in your sexual romantic relationship. Okay, there. Now I've said it.
All right.
I got to cut Tony's mic. Give me a second.
Yeah, just cut him off. Yeah.
That's it.
Done.
Well, as always, of course, thanks to Trevor Page for being an incredible guest. Trevor, you should come on the show more often.
Wow. All you have to do is invite. I just got to run it by the wife to make sure I can make some time for you. But
Yeah, you do your own show, though, right?
Yeah. We actually we're starting our first podcast, and that'll be live tomorrow night. We tried to do it last Friday, but we had a wicked windstorm come through last week, and I lost power for several hours.
Oh.
And so we couldn't do it, so we had to postpone until this week. So yeah, if you want to tune in, you can check in tomorrow night at 7 p.m. 7 p.m.
Awesome. And where do they look?
tweet it
Do they go to your .com for that?
No, it'll be live streamed on our YouTube channel.
On the YouTube channel. Okay,
Yep.
excellent.
Yep.
So youtube.com/Model 3 Owners Club.
Yeah, you can just search for it too. Yeah.
Yeah, just go there and subscribe. I mean, we want you here, but you can watch Trevor's show too, please.
Right.
And watch them both.
What time was that again?
I'm going to say 8 p.m. our time.
Do you know what that is, GMT? Just kidding.
That's like
It's an old
midnight.
joke.
Eastern time.
No, you're in.
No,
where are
Tony,
you?
he knows where he is.
I'm in Toronto.
Okay.
So that's Central, right?
No,
No, it's Eastern.
it's Eastern.
Eastern.
Come on.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm in California. Leave me alone. I barely know my name. Thanks to Trevor Page for coming on and doing the whole show with us. Trevor, it was amazingly cool.
Thanks for having me on the show. It was lots of fun. Let's do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime, man. Tony, thank you. Mark,
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to everybody in the chat room, man. A big crowd in there tonight. That was cool.
Yeah, you'll have to wait and see which show title we choose. We got some really good suggestions.
We'll figure it out. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
really sure. Although I'm thinking Elon Keelhaul's Excess is really kind of in the lead right now.
Oh, that was excess contractors at Word Wrap.
Yeah, but I like just XS.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, hey, tune in next week and find out what is going on in the Tesla life.